So if you guys are following Chantel, you know that she's already back with Natter. She's using the approach of slip sliding back into his DM slowly, just being like, hey, I'm just here to edit some videos. And then she mysteriously got sick while she was there. My goodness, it's amazing how well timed that was. Anyway, we are still going to talk about her breakup with Natter. We're going to talk about the 3 videos that she put up on her channel and then quickly delete it. So we're going to talk about Natter, this is a message for you, truth as you call it, and then, 4 videos. And then all-nighter, no CPAP, no sleep, and I'm back. So I am using the Just Saying clips version of it. So that's 3 videos I'm pretty sure that she clipped together, and I went through her video and I clipped it. As you guys know, all credit goes to Just Saying for those clips. I do not have the patience to watch Chantel for hours and hours and hours. So, yeah. This is a pretty long intro. Let's get into it. Hey, hi, hello, friends. So I sort of rambled a little bit in my intro. I didn't even do my usual shtick because I'm a little bit over Chantel at the moment. She has been a lot quite recently, you know, with between the way that, between the way that she treated Pete's, but then immediately turning around and asking for sympathy. And I still want to talk about her breakup, even though it is, as far as Chantel's concerned, old news and that she's moved on from it. I think it says a lot about who she is as a person. Some of her reactions there were pretty interesting. And then at the end of this, I'm going to tell you about something that I learned very recently, a term that I learned very recently. It's not like I have very special information into Chantel, but it's a term that I learned very recently, and I think it applies very much to Chantel and her psychology. As well, I think it applies very heavily to who Natter is as well. I think they both display some pretty startling characteristics, and they both actually share a lot of that pathology, a lot of that psychological pathology, I think, and it's one of the reasons they get along like a house on fire. Last but not least, this is 8 minutes long. There was a lot in here. I cut out a lot of stuff that I thought was repetitive, but even then, it's still about 8 minutes long. I'm gonna not make this a very long video. I'm gonna try and keep my rambling to a minimum because I want to record 2 videos today. The one that I promised my patrons, which is still coming, I promise. The one about her financial situation that she talked about in her I Have a New Pimple, and then the one where she cleaned her bathtub. I still want to go through that, and I still want to talk to patrons about that. So I'm gonna record that after this, and I do want my voice to hold up. So here's hoping. Keep my fingers crossed. You guys know. I don't know. But you guys know how long it ended up being. All right. With all that said, let's jump into it.
I really never really understood the term of gaslighting before, like, up until recently. I know I've heard it a lot online, but just being with somebody who's constantly doing that to you. I know I get accused of doing that. I think we all do at some point, but, like, somebody who does it to you all the time.
I think, so there's 2 things here that she mentions that I want to address, and I always feel like there's at least 2 points I have in everything. The first one is where she mentions that, you know, I think everybody gets accused of doing it. I think that gaslighting has become so commonplace in the language of especially Twitter, like social media as a whole, that people tend to apply it to a lot of different fields. I want to make it very abundantly clear that I do think Chantel gaslights, but not everything that she does is gaslighting. The difference between gaslighting and I think being delusional, right, or having a false sense of reality is the conviction, whether or not the other person believes it. And Chantel is a mixture of both. There's a lot of times where she lies to us with the intention of keeping the truth from us, but there's a lot of times where she lies to keep the truth from herself. She is saying things that she doesn't want to be true, and she convinces herself of that fact. And it's gaslighting in a way, I guess you could say. But if she's not doing it with the intention of deceiving us, then we're not being gaslit. And I think that's where people run into a little bit of trouble, is attributing the term gaslighting to everything. Like if something happens and you know, say you get into an argument with your husband or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or whoever, right? Your significant other. And you get into an argument with them and they present to you a view of the situation that is vastly different from your own. It doesn't mean that they're gaslighting you into thinking that what you experienced was wrong. There are 2 sides to every situation, And that's the most common version of that phrase that we hear. But the reality of it is that it's not entirely accurate. There are actually three sides to every situation. There is your side, my side, and then the truth. And often I found that the truth tends to be something in the middle, right? Because our perceptions color the way that we look at a problem, look at a situation. So if you have an argument with your significant other and they're saying, no, that's not how I interpret it. And a lot of times it's stuff like tone policing is a big one, I think, when you're like, oh, you said it, but this is what you actually meant, right? And you're like, I never meant it that way. You're trying to gaslight me into thinking that. They interpreted based on information that they have gathered over the course of their lifetime. And if they truly believe what they're saying, they're not gaslighting you. In fact, they might feel that you're gaslighting them. That's why that term is a little bit difficult to apply across the board. So just be careful. I think people throw it around so regularly and so lightly that it's starting to lose a little bit of that meaning. Secondarily, absolutely not. If someone can pinpoint to me the clip of when this happened exactly, but I remember when she broke up with Nader a while ago, and she was driving on that long road back, and remember she was sitting in the car and the camera was pointing outwards, and she said this exact same thing. She's like, up until recently, I didn't know what gaslighting meant, but now I finally get it. It's terrible, and he's doing it to me all the time. You can't, unless this is like the eternal sunshine of a spotless mind sort of a situation, or like a Memento where you forget, you can't continuously be having the same revelations over and over again. You either know what gaslighting means because people accuse you of it so much, you've heard it so much, and you've experienced it at the hands of Nader before, or you don't, right? Some people genuinely misunderstand what gaslighting is, and I think that that's a different thing. I think people who only have a very exposure to gaslighting from like Twitter can have that sort of misconception, because Twitter is a great place to spread misinformation sometimes. But that's not the case with Chantel. Chantel has mentioned several times how she finally understands what gaslighting means, and in specific she's mentioned it when she's talking about Nader. So and it once more comes back to, then I don't care, right? Because the first time that he was gaslighting you and you had these feelings, I actually felt for her. I felt for her a lot. And I was like, oh no, it's terrible. She's finally realizing it. But then like the sixth or seventh time that it happens, I don't care anymore. I don't care if she's gaslighting me into forgetting the previous narrative so that I have full sympathy for her now. I don't care if she's delusional and she genuinely believes this. Because you come to a point, and I realize to a certain degree that this is how manipulators, this is how toxic people, how abusive people in a relationship actually function, right? They put so much strain on the bonds of empathy around the person who they're abusing that eventually all those sort of fall by the wayside. The effort to maintain them is too great, and either the party experiencing abuse or the party who is like sort of in the periphery, their friends and family, or even in Chantel's case, the audience, they just get fed up and they're just like, this is taking a toll on me and I don't think I can maintain it. That effort becomes too great to maintain. It's a tactic that people use, but it doesn't matter, because it's been pointed out to you multiple times. And the reason why my sympathy tends to be so low for her as a victim, as opposed to a lot of other people as a victim, is because when you are in a domestically abusive situation, a lot of times there's more complicating factors than just than what she has. Right? Your finances are tied together. You might have children together. You might be in a foreign country and be dependent on their visa. You might not speak the language, which is a big one. You might be illegal and can't report it. That's another big one in the US. There's a lot of different things that tie into it, but there is a form of dependency that isn't just emotional. There is a form of physical dependency that the abuser creates in their victim, right? You marry somebody and they convince you should leave your job, and then all of a sudden you don't have any independent finances of your own and you're reliant on the other person. That's a form of dependency that they have now encouraged. They didn't force you into doing it, but they encouraged it enough. They gave you a false sense of reality of what would actually happen if you left your work. And they use it as a way to manipulate you. They can have maybe a tape you don't want released, like the sex tape that she's made with him. They might hold that over your head. And even though it is illegal in many states, and I think it's also illegal in Canada, revenge porn, it doesn't mean that if it came out that it wouldn't still devastate her. And that's only if they can prove it was him. He can just say my phone got lost and someone posted it. He can say that people follow Chantel around, they stole the phone and they posted it. It's hard to prove. Unless you've got concrete evidence, it's hard to prove. So I get where she's coming from, but I don't feel sympathy for her, because when you have been made aware of what the problems are and the only form of dependency you're experiencing are your own emotional state that you don't want to address with a therapist, that you don't take any accountability for, that you blame others, that you lash out at others for, you make the fault of the people trying to help you when you no longer want that help, my sympathy for you starts to vanish. Because we tried. Everybody tried. Right? And you don't owe him anything. And the longer this relationship goes on, the more likely it is that she's going to move in with him. And then he's going to create that actual dependency. He's going to link all of her accounts directly to his bank account. And she's going to become financially dependent on him. And that is a real concern. But you're walking into it with eyes so wide open that even though I would feel bad for anybody in this situation, my sympathy for her in particular is at an all-time low.
Miraculously, a few weeks later, his clothes reappear in the closet, in the basket. I brought them in. Oh, somebody, a neighbor said that they saw my clothes outside and they took them in for me. They didn't know, like, what? Huh? Like, just little things like that, or like, and who the f*** is he talking to at the beginning of the stream? Like, really? Like, do you guys actually believe? He always likes to say, it's right in front of you, the truth. You guys see it with your own eyes.
So this thing about the clothes, that's actually what kind of triggered me regarding a term that I'd heard a few times before, in specific from Swoop, Spanky Valentine, if you don't know. She's great. She makes a bunch of really great documentaries covering some like drama situations. She talked about the Ace family recently, whom I despise to an extreme degree. Anyway, and she'd mentioned the term DARVO, and I looked into it, and I'm going to talk about it in relation specifically to Natter right now, okay? DARVO stands for Deny, Attack, Reverse Victim, and Offender. Okay, so I'll use this clothes thing as a situation. She put his clothes outside in one of their first breakups, and he said that someone stole all his clothes and they all disappeared and they were super valuable. Okay, so first thing is that he denies that he did anything wrong in that situation to begin with. Then he attacks her even though she washed his clothes and brought them back. He's like, you lost my clothes. You are now responsible for this. And then he reverses victim and offender. You know, he got his clothes back, right? Say that wasn't even the issue. He reverses who was really the perpetrator of this. If someone stole the clothes, that's not on Chantel. That's still on him, because he's the person who created this mess in the first place. He's the person who abused her and created this mess in the first place. But he reverses the role that she and him have. Right? And he does this a lot. Well, that example might not have it exactly, but he does this a lot with like other factors of their situation, right? He'll talk about how, well, she goes online and she talks all this shit about him. And then he'll say, well, that makes it justified for me to go online and also talk shit about you. The difference between the two is that he's doing it from a very, very calculated place, and he is the more aggressive of the two in this relationship. Chantel sucks in a whole different league of her own, but her form of suckage is extreme attachment issues and being manipulative when it comes to money. She's trying to buy the affections of someone who does not love her. His version means physically assaulting people. So if I have to pick a worse person, yeah, Chantel's definitely less awful than he is. And he does this a lot, where she says it all the time. She's like, anything that goes wrong, it's automatically my fault. You know, someone disrespects him in her comments, and then all of a sudden it's my fault. She can't control what people say. If she could, they'd be a lot nicer to her. And it's no problem if they're insulting her in his comments, but the other way around, unacceptable. And he does this a lot. He reverses who the perpetrator of the act was and who the victim of this act was. You know, he'll do something to her. He'll like upset her. He'll hurt her. He'll deny her feelings. And then he'll come back on and he'll say, well, why did you do this? Because you did. It's like a very extreme form of whataboutism. So I thought it explained pretty well what he does. Now, Chantel is no like stranger to this, and if I see an example of it, then I'll point it out. But at the end, if not, I'll talk about DARVO as it relates to her as well.
So, do you honestly think I would be there all the time, sleeping there, in bed, in my pajamas, even on his live stream, if I wasn't with him?
I think that that's a really funny thing to say, because literally right now she's saying that she is not with him, but she's not feeling well, and so she is currently in bed on her couch, but currently in bed in his house. So you're not together, but you're still there in his bed. Why? Why exactly, ma'am? Why?
The only reason you won't claim me, Natter, is because of your ego. He's never called me sweetie. You never, ever, 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 ever. You want me to list all the things I do for you, and you don't even call me sweetie? You call some random fucking person who calls you on Messenger. Like, I don't know, what's your problem? You call me stupid. You're the stupid one. All you have to do is be nice. Like, I don't know what your problem is. Please.
I actually don't know if the person who was on that phone call was Chantel or not. I am inclined to believe not, because Chantel is a liar, but she's not a good one. She doesn't have the, not intelligence exactly, the forethought to really keep her lies straight. Like, con men do that, and honestly, Natter is much, much better at it. Chantel's manipulative, but she's not good at being very forward thinking when it comes to her lies, because lies take energy to keep straightforward. It's one of the reasons why I tend not to say anything. I tend not to lie. If I have to, I just tend to not tell people things because I don't remember my lies. I'm really bad at it. I'm very, very see-through actually, and I'm not particularly good at remembering what I've said. So especially if it's like for something like I can't go somewhere, which is the most common type of lies, like I don't want to be somewhere, like now, especially with the whole COVID situation, I'm just being very, very straightforward with people. And I know I've lost friends because of it. I'm like, I don't feel comfortable going out in public yet. I have a bubble. I don't stray outside my bubble. But if I say that to people, sometimes they take it offensively, thinking that I think they're being reckless, or that, you know, even when they're vaxxed, I don't hang out with people outside of my bubble. I can't do anything about that. I'm sorry. I'm not doing it to be a mean person. But if I say that, oh, I have something else, and they decide to follow up with me about it later on, I'm not going to remember, and I'll say something else and they'll think I'm a horrible person anyway. So I might as well just get that out of the way now. Anyway, that was a long-winded way of saying that I don't remember and Chantel doesn't remember either, right? She doesn't remember because she doesn't care. I don't remember because, well, I guess I also don't care. I just don't have the mental capacity to commit to that kind of upkeeping of a lie. And so I think that there are definitely kernels of truth here. Now, do I think that she's exaggerating a little bit to draw a little bit more sympathy and money out of everyone? Yeah. Do I think that the Pete situation made this worse? Yeah, but not necessarily in the way that people are thinking. I don't think she's faking it, but I think that when the Pete situation happened, she took an emotional hit. It put her in a headspace that was pretty negative. And I think when she took that energy back to someone who is definitely toxic, I think it exacerbated the situation and it made it significantly worse. And there was fallout there where there might not have been fallout if she was in a better mood. And I think that's kind of how the two play into each other. Now, that said, do I think that this is still 100% of an authentic fight? She's been hurting for money for a while, and it would not surprise me if she just decides to play it up a little. And I know for a fact that's what Natter is doing. He is 100% using the situation to try and get as much money from her antagonizers and whatnot as he can.
Right, TV. I want my TV back. I do my machine. Is he good?
You pay for stuff all of the time. I don't know why you feel the need to not just buy another CPAP machine and or another TV. Why would you take the TV there in the first place? Because the TV was there so that you and Pete's could watch it together. I keep saying Pete's. I have to remember. You and James could watch it together at home. Why did you take it there to begin with? Do you not remember the other TV that you took that immediately he broke? What's to say that if you really upset him, that this TV won't also suffer a similar consequence? And yeah, it would be good to have that TV back, but you have enough money that if you decided to forego doing drugs, you could probably buy a nice one. It's the end of the year. Sales are happening all around. I want to say I spent like $500 on my TV like 3 Black Fridays ago. It's not particularly big and it's not particularly nice. Well, it's big. It's not very nice. But I also don't care because I don't watch a lot of TV. And not because I'm a better person. I watch a lot of YouTube. I just don't have time to sit down in my living room and watch TV. I'm always doing other things and watching YouTube at the same time. Like I'll cook and I'll watch, I'll clean and I'll watch, I'll be in the garage working on furniture and I watch. No one has time to just devote to sitting in a living room, okay? A bitch has to work. Anyway, that's why I'm like a little bit weirded out by her insisting that she wants her stuff back. And obviously it's a ploy because she does this all the time. She's like, I need to go back for my stuff. And it always spirals into, let me see if I can just stay for a bit. The roads were bad. I wasn't feeling well. We got to talking and one thing led to another.
Is he on it? Is he watching me? Let me know if he's watching me because I have a message. So basically I'm just confused. If he watches this, why are you mad at me for talking shit about you online when it's all true stuff? And not only that, but you treat me like absolute crap when I do everything for you, and I'm like losing my freaking hair because of just how stressed out this relationship made me.
And because you're old.
Yeah, I'm old. Cares more about his
You're losing your hair because of your own choices. You've been losing hair well before you met Natter. I hate it when she does that. Because this is the problem when you make all problems somebody else. This is what happens when you make everything somebody else's fault. Because then they take the one part of your argument that is the weakest, so her hair loss, you can say, I have no idea what she's talking about. She's been going bald for such a long time. She's such a pathological liar. Because when you do that, when you overextend what is their fault, they can take the weakest version of what you're saying, strawman you pretty effectively, and essentially dismiss the entirety of your argument. And for a person who takes arguments in as bad faith as Natter does, that's exactly the route he's going to take. I really don't like it when people do this. Make a point correctly, right? I'm not saying I'm always the greatest at it. Don't get me wrong. There's a difference between understanding and being good at something yourself. I overextend sometimes too, but I don't tend to do it on purpose, and she is doing it on purpose. And also, I like the fact that James came in the background. He's like, and because you're old.
ego than like even hurting me. He doesn't care how I felt yesterday, how upset I was, how stressed I was that my friend is like in so much distress. He didn't care about that. He only cared about his video.
Right, he's not nice to you. We all know this. He's never been nice to you. We all know that. You know this about him for a fact. And you're once more sitting there saying, I came over to you. I was so distressed that my friend wasn't doing well, and all you cared about was your video. Why would you ask for sympathy from him for Pete's when you couldn't even show sympathy for Pete's? He doesn't even like Pete's. And it's not on him. He doesn't have to show sympathy for Pete's. If somebody that Pete's, James, I've had so many people come up to me and be like, oh, so-and-so in my family isn't doing well. And if they're like a good friend of mine, then I can reach out and say, hey, do you need any support? But for the most part, if I don't know you, I can't overextend myself like that, right? Sympathy, empathy, kindness, care, and attention, and time, honestly, are all very limited things. So why would he extend any of those things to James, your friend of 20 years that he doesn't like anyway, when you clearly don't care? If someone in my life was hurt that I really cared about, say my brother wasn't feeling well, and my partner came up to me and was like, oh yeah, I need you to do all these things, and I'm like, I'm really worried about my brother, and he's like, oh okay, well, can you do those things for me or not? I would be pissed. But that's because he knows the importance that my brother holds for me. He's aware of that. I have shown him that my brother is important to me, both with my words and with my action. You have shown him that James is not important to you by abandoning him when he made such dire comments on his YouTube channel because he assured you that, oh, he was not in fact going to unalive himself. Something that anyone can just say. And in fact, many times when people are thinking of unaliving themselves, they do say, so that people will leave them alone and they can follow through with their plans. And the fact that you don't care and you're asking him to care is pretty goddamn slimy.
And you really downplay everything I do for you. If you think you're gonna bend my arm because you edit my videos, do you know how long it takes us to fucking film those videos? And I have to like be there like hours and hours, and then I have to be there to edit your freaking video. Well, no, I can edit them from here, but it takes like a couple more hours or whatever, like at least an hour. Like it's time like that I give to you out of love.
I thought that it was a fair trade, that he feeds you and you edit his videos. So either it's a fair trade and you've already been paid in full, in which case, shut the fuck up. Or it's not a fair trade and you were lying to us, in which case, I don't have any sympathy for you, so shut the fuck up. Either way, shut the fuck up about how much you edit his videos for him. Because we've told you multiple times before that you don't have to do that. You keep wanting to do that because you want to ingratiate yourself to him, because you want to make him feel that you are important in his life. You're doing it for you. You're not even really doing it for him. So then the sympathy that you want from me for that is not there. You know what you're doing. You're using it as a manipulation tactic. You're hoping that you can convince him that because you do all this for him that he should stay with you and he should appreciate you and he should love you. And when he doesn't, you get mad. So I don't care. I don't care. I don't care how much time you spend. I especially don't care because this comes at the cost of you doing it for your own audience. How long have we been asking for time warp? How long have we been asking for recorded content? We're not getting any of that, but you're going to sit here and talk about how you do all this shit for him and how many hours it takes you. And by the way, might I remind you, you enjoy being there. By your own admission, you're like, I want to spend time with him. I want to do what I want to do. That entire childish fucking tantrum you threw. So, I don't give a shit how much time you spent for him, and I don't care how abused you're feeling at this exact moment, because you did this to yourself, and that is the hard and cold truth of it.
because I won't dump my friend of 20 years for calling you a like, I didn't talk crap about Pete. I don't know what he's talking about.
She keeps bringing up this point, and she'll bring it up again, where she's like, well, you were so mad at me. The reason why they had this fight was because, he didn't want her to go back to Pete's and console Pete's. I'm sure that was part of it, but that's not what she said immediately. Do you remember when her drive back, where she was like, oh, I pleasured him twice in a row, but he wouldn't reciprocate, like, oh, I do everything for you and nothing, no love for me, no pleasure for me, no nothing for me. Do you remember that? Pete's didn't factor into that equation at all, but it's convenient now. It's easier to say now that, well, he didn't want me to spend time with my friend who was struggling mentally, because that puts her in a better light. Makes her look like the hero for standing up to him, when in reality, all she had to do was not go back. If he was going to be mad, he was going to be mad either way. So, absolutely not. That is an active rewriting of history right there.
I'm torturing myself. Watching a stream of matters. Happy. I blocked everybody. Okay, I want to debunk some of the lies he's telling. What is some of the things he said again? No, sorry. You're not gonna go live and talk all this shit and then go cook food and think I'm gonna be okay with it. Like, and your little lover girl.
I mean, you don't have to be okay with anything. He doesn't care what you say. He doesn't care what you do. He has no emotional investment in you. And that becomes clearer and clearer with every moment. Especially if that person on the other end of the line really wasn't Chantel. That means he found someone to replace you in a matter of minutes while you were gone.
Or whoever, Chilean Gypsy, looked like a desperate idiot. Because he says all the time how how ugly you are. Like, did you see her face? He makes me feel dizzy after he, like...
Okay, so he calls her... desperate, and he makes fun of the way that she looks. He's literally compared you to farm animals, smacks mounts on your back, calls you disgusting, calls you filthy. He says you don't brush your teeth, that you don't shower enough, and that he doesn't love you, that you were only his girlfriend for 1 week. He won't kiss you on camera, and he lets people insult you. So between the two of you, at least Chilean Gypsy is only there on YouTube. If I have to pick between who is more pathetic and desperate, oh girl.
He defends himself. He talks and says nothing. You ever notice that?
I left that in there because I thought it was pretty funny how she doesn't recognize her own characteristics being thrown back at her. You do this all the time, where you come on there and you make up a whole bunch of bullshit to defend your own point of view, whatever it happens to be at that moment. Or do you not remember Mr. Micropeen, all of a sudden, the magical, mysterious hookup that you never mentioned to us before this, until it became a reason why you had to explain away why you were okay with the fact that he gave you an STD, because you wanted it to somehow not be his fault so you could continue seeing him. Because that was a hit too far, right? That was a kind of negative perception of yourself that you couldn't live with.
I have a weird tasting men. I know. Normal men bore me. But I don't want this. I'm not used to men like this.
She says that normal men bore her. And by normal, I think she means not foreign. And a lot of the way that Chantel talks about people from another country, men from another country, even when she was talking back before she ever met Natter, she was like, Greek men are really hot, and these types of men are really hot. It made me feel very weird. Like, I had expectations of who I wanted to marry, because I wanted to marry someone who had the same outlook on life that I did, formed by a similar, cultural perspective. But I didn't go into it thinking I find, exotic men to be hot or something like that. It's something in the way that she speaks of men from a different country. It strikes me, there's two things here. One is that she sees men from a different country as being more in her, I guess if people are like, oh, he's out of your league. She sees them as more being in her league, because them being foreign and oftentimes being people of color, I think drops them down a level or two and makes them more in her league, even though Chantel is maybe like a 2. Most of that is because of her personality. So I think she thinks that them being foreign knocks them down enough that they can be within her realm of possibility of someone that she can date. And something about the way that she talks about men, and in particular the way she used to talk about black men, made me feel very uncomfortable. It had a lot of the same overtones of fetishization that you see in people who, like talk about, oh yeah, black men, they're really good at the sex. I know I sound like an idiot, but I'm trying not to get too explicit with it. There is a historical relevance of people seeing like black people and a lot of times people of color in general as being over sexualized, and black men in particular being fetishized, especially by white women. And something in the way that she talks about them makes me feel that way. Now, I could very well be wrong about that. But she speaks a lot about BB in this particular way, but she never really speaks about James that way. She never really brings up James really in the context of having a romantic relationship. Now, I know that she broke up with BB and that, well, BB broke up with her, and that was a different situation than the breakup that she had with Pete, and she's probably still not over it. But it's more than just that. It's the way that she seems to apply it to foreign men as a whole. I don't know, and I'm not entirely sure that I'm communicating my thoughts across well, but if any one of you more eloquent and well-worded people can point that out below, like if you guys feel the same way, if you can point out why you feel that way, I'd appreciate it, because it when something like raises the hairs on the back of your neck, like you get goosebumps from it, but you can't quite articulate why it's triggering a sense. That's kind of the feeling I get.
Oh, look how BB was. I should sell merch. I paid the rent and edited videos and all that. Where's the clap? It's true. Hot wasabi. My problem was.
Well, yeah, that's true. And you could make merch, but that requires effort. Do you remember when Beauty Bite was a big thing and where everyone was telling her she should make merch for that? That could have actually been a really good idea. She has some pretty iconic sayings. She could have done that. She could have done like Time Warp Mukbang. She could have done like shh, I said shh. She could have made like mugs of that. She could have made t-shirts of that. She could have had that lip bite thing that she had, that graphic with those words overlaying it. It could have actually been pretty well. She chooses not to do that because that requires effort on her part, and she doesn't want to do that. And quite frankly, I wouldn't trust at this point any merch that she came out with, because it would quite obviously be a money grab. You want people whose channels are actively growing and who aren't hurting for money, because you know that they're going to invest more time into the merch that they're producing, because for them it's more than just the money. The money plays a part in it, but they want to create good merch for their community because they're actively putting an effort into their channel, and their channels are growing as a result. And they don't have the urgency for the money the way that someone whose channel is on the decline might. And Chantal has shown very little integrity as a whole. So anything she comes out with now, I would worry that if it's not from like Teesprings or a very well-known brand, that they would just sketch out. They would just take my money and go.
Never that these people, FFG and Shannon, thought he was a piece of shit. That's not the problem at all. And if that's what you guys think is my problem with them, you're totally missing the point. Your sis is insane, Curly Warros. You know that, right?
Who's Curly Wars and who is Curly Wars' sister? Can someone please tell me if anyone knows the context of that comment? Also, no, your problem definitely was the fact that, well, it was also that they outed you on the internet before you were willing to talk about it. First with the Coke problem when it comes to FFG, and then with Shannon and the abuse when it comes to Natter. But the reason you were so mad at them, and you've said this multiple times, he's like, Cokie, Cokie, Cokie. They keep calling him Cokie, and why would you care about that? They clearly don't like him, and he has done cocaine. He's provided you with cocaine. So you clearly have a problem with them judging him. And you hate your audience and your VIB for bringing it up. So you want to sit there and you want to tell me that you don't have a problem with what Shannon and FFG are saying about him? Get the fuck out of here.
Obsessed with being a real man. Yeah. A real man really takes it out on somebody who you know is defenseless. You look really, really strong. You look like a real man. Talking like all these pictures of women on your phone, naked pictures.
All right. Here's the thing. I really don't like Natter at all. And this particular comment really set off alarm bells in my head. You are not helpless. You are not defenseless. Okay? Somebody defenseless would be a child who is the victim of abuse. Somebody defenseless would be someone who is maybe financially tied to their abuser. Someone who might be disabled, because abuse of the disabled is unfortunately a very big problem. someone elderly who might not be in possession of all of their faculties. Fucking Britney Spears and the conservatorship. In that case, for a very long period of time, she was very defenseless. The abuse that she suffered at the hands of her father and maybe even well-meaning people put her in that situation. You are not defenseless here. He doesn't have a car. He can't chase you down. You were already not at his place. You could have just stayed with Pete's. You've had multiple opportunities to walk away. You didn't. You choose to continuously go back there. You choose to continuously lie about what he did and what he didn't do. You choose to continuously provide him with money and support. You want him to go away. You want his channel to die. You want this entire thing to end. Never go back to his house and never mention him on your channel again. It might take a few weeks, but I guarantee you his entire channel will die. Because there's no appeal there other than the fact that people don't like you. But to sit there and make it sound like you were this poor defenseless victim, like you were one of your cats. Remember the cat that he kicked? That you were one of the cats. No. And the reason I don't like it is because it puts her into this idea where it's like, where she already has a victim complex, right? She already has this belief that she is the world's victim. And the fact that she's painting herself in this light really upsets me, because then it reinforces to her that, yeah, there was literally nothing I could have done. I'm just a poor defenseless person. I was at his mercy. No, you could have done stuff. Choosing not to, considering yourself helpless and being helpless aren't the same thing. You want to be helpless in this situation because then it wasn't your fault. How you treated Pete's wasn't your fault. The fact that you don't leave isn't your fault. The fact that he kicked your cats and you stayed with him, that isn't your fault. The fact that he gave you the clap and you didn't leave, that isn't your fault. Because if you're defenseless, if you're helpless, then none of that is on you. It is on you. You aren't defenseless. You aren't helpless. You are just a piece of shit. That's it. It's as easy as that. You coldly abandoned your friends. You coldly accepted abuse of your animals. You let him mistreat you and then continue to make excuses for him on the internet. You provide him with the audience that you have. You're the one who blocks people for not agreeing with your poor decisions. You're the one who pushed your family away. These are all things that you did. You actively participated in this. You don't get to come on here now and call yourself defenseless. And as for him being a real man, that is some bullshit. Because this is not what real men do. Like, I don't have to tell any of you guys. I'm sure a lot of my audience is more of the older persuasion, right? I don't tend to attract a lot of teens. I'm sure that a lot of you guys are married. And I want you guys to put into the comment section some of the... So just put in whatever you think is an example of what a real man should be. Like real manliness, real like sign of being a good man, of being a good provider, being a good person. I want you to put those in the comment section below. I'll give you mine. Okay. My partner, right? I told you guys this before. He tends to keep like an envelope of like singles and like fives and whatnot. He tends to keep them in his car so that if he ever encounters someone who needs money, he'll give that to them. And I asked him once why he did it, and he said, I'm not going to miss it. I'm going to forget about this a few minutes after it's done. A few dollars missing from my overall money is not going to impact me, but it could make a big difference for someone else. And he has done it consistently since I have known him, which is, I want to say almost 9 years now. That is the sign of a real man. That is the sign of someone who doesn't care that he is lacking in something. He cares about the impact that he can make to others. He's one of the kindest people that I have met. He's very stubborn. Don't get me wrong. He's not perfect. But he cares about the effect that he has on other people. He cares about the people that he works with. He cares about his family. He cares about his friends. That's the sign of a real man. Soft as hands, the goddamn world. Can't do a lick of woodwork. But he's a great person. That is real manliness as far as I'm concerned. Being kind to people is what makes you a real man. The ability to carry the emotional burdens is what makes you a real man. The ability to look at someone who is a total mess when it comes to their emotion, like myself, and think, hey, I'm here to support you and to help you get to the place where you can support yourself. That's the sign of real manliness, not this posturing on the internet. This is what animals do in the zoo. This is literally animal kingdom behavior. Ridiculousness.
And you know the shit I have on you, and you don't want to fucking go there.
But remember, she's the defenseless, helpless victim here.
So you better shut your mouth. Like, I've never met a person so more than, like, he needs more a validation more than me. He's always asking me to validate him in so many ways. And I just feel like somebody, like, holding onto his leg. And I feel like nothing. I feel like I'm just there to stroke his ego. That's all he wants. He doesn't give a about me. No, he can't release sex recordings. I don't give him permission to do that.
Good. I'm glad that she's put that on the internet, and I'm glad that even if she deletes this video, that they're out there forever. Because if something ever goes wrong, now we have evidence of her very clearly stating, I do not give him evidence. And because he reacted to it, we know for a fact that he's also seen this. So if it ever finds itself onto the internet, at least there's some recourse there. As for her having all of this evidence against him, and I think she mentions a little bit earlier too, she's like, oh, you know, I have so much stuff on you too, and I've never said anything negative about Pete. I don't believe that for a second. Chantel very much so sounds like the kind of person who mocks their friends behind their back. And as for her having a bunch of stuff on him, either put up or shut up.
You said it with your own mouth. You'll never be with me, so you'll never be with me. And that means you don't get any of the benefits that come with being with me. He said,
I mean, he clearly seems to be okay with that. And all these benefits that you keep, you're not an employer talking about all of the perks that you get at the workplace. Like, I'll provide you with all of the meals, you know, there's a fully stocked pantry, and you get the snacks, and, you know, we don't have healthcare, but look at all of the coconut water we can give you. That's what you kind of sound like here. And this is a romantic relationship, at least according to you. It doesn't really matter what the perks of being with you are. Those shouldn't be the reason to draw someone in. And if those are the only reasons they're probably not there for the right reasons. But you know that. You're counting on that. You're counting on the perks to attract people the same way that predatory employers tend to count on the free lunches and snacks they provide for their employees, rather than providing them with better health care, better time off, PTO, all of those fun things.
he swore on his mother's life that if I don't leave Pete, he won't go back to me. So he's changing his word now. And he is with me. Just because you say you're not doesn't mean you aren't. I'm sorry, but if it made your bed every night and you don't want me to leave for more than a few hours, I'm your fucking girlfriend, bitch.
No, you're not. Just because you're having sex with someone doesn't mean that you have an emotional bond with them. Human beings, very complex like that.
Actions were telling me that you love me. Actually, you told me when you came back from your friends. You said how much you love me. I love you a lot. I never put up with anything with what I put up with you.
I don't think he said that for a minute. I don't think that's how that conversation went. And I'm not saying exactly that she's lying here, but she's definitely saying the truth. He might have said something to the effect of, I cannot believe all the stuff I put up with because of you. You know, I've never put up with anybody that I loved I've never put up with anybody else who does stuff like this with me. Not even people I love. And she might have experienced that as, you love me. Because the pause that she had there was very telling. I doubt that. I doubt he would ever say that, because for Chantel, who's as emotionally needy as she is, that word would have a lot of meaning. And I don't think he would ever say it. Ever. Because she would die to hear that. And he's going to wring everything out of her before he ever gives her that satisfaction.
We would eventually do a sit-down video on a couple channel we created. Listen how delusional I am. We'll create a couples channel for traveling and stuff. Wholesome shit. And, you know, just saying, people will change their mind about you as once they see how good you are for me, and we're good together for a while and we don't fight. But all he seems interested in now is reversing his image and making me look like a liar, disproving what I think. And it's how it, like, turns, and he's, like, slowly turning it around on me. Like, and I feel like he's just saying things behind the scenes to keep me dumb and keep me, like, docile and quiet, you know?
He's not even doing it behind the scenes. He says these things to your face. He says mean things to your face. He literally actively says mean things about you on the internet. He's not doing it. Behind your back would imply that you had no idea. Secretly spreading lies amongst your confidants. He's not doing that. He's publicly spreading lies about you. On the internet, he's saying it with his whole chest, for better or worse. The fact that you don't want to believe that, well, that's on you. And yeah, those views are very, very highly delusional. There is no amount of sanitization that you could do on the image of a domestic abuser who has already stabbed people and has gone to jail for it to ever make him out to be a good guy. Like literally nothing. Literally nothing. But that's what she wants. She wants the public validation of love. She wants to be a lifestyle YouTuber. I think she wants to be like a Laura Lee. Like, someone thin and pretty who has a bunch of people following her, who adore her, and she just wants to travel and do all of those things. And I'm not saying that she can't get there. Chantel is a conventionally attractive woman. If she tried and she lost enough weight that mobility was not a challenge for her, she could still travel and she could still do all of those things. That all relies on her intrinsic ability to do anything about her life. And I don't think she doesn't have the conviction for it. She doesn't have the follow through for it. She might not like where her life is now, but God, it's better than trying to do anything about it. God forbid she actually change her behavior. Oh my God.
I'm seriously considering trying to date a woman. Like, I've never tried it. I feel like I would maybe get more emotional than from a male. Because what I need emotionally, like, it's not just, like, in a relationship, like, you have needs, like, within a healthy reason. Like, I know I have things to work on in therapy that I'm very needy, and I know that's a problem. But, I don't know, fuck. And I mean, when I think of a penis hard, it doesn't make me horny. But a hot naked woman probably would. So maybe I'm even gay and I don't even know it.
I'm not really a member of the LGBTQIA plus community like that. So I don't want to speak for them. This sounds a little homophobic. That she thinks she can just turn her preferences on and off like that. You've never dated a woman before. You've never been in a committed relationship with a woman before. Not to say that those are proof of validation, but given how much you've talked about doing everything with everyone and the way that you put women down continuously, the way that even when you have engaged in the imaginary threesomes that you talk about, that you always seem to belittle the women involved in those processes, makes me feel like you don't have a particularly high opinion of women as a whole. And nothing in those stories has ever implied or even suggested that you could be open to that. And you've brought up this topic of being gay before, and generally it's to pander to a point of view, right? You've talked about this. I can't remember exactly what context it was, but she's mentioned it once before about how, maybe I could be gay. Maybe I should try dating a woman. I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm not immersed enough in a community to really be able to say that this is definitively why it's wrong. But the flippant way in which she speaks about it makes me feel like she's just saying this to pander. She's just saying this to deflect. She's just saying this so that she can just be like, oh, he's so terrible. He turned me off of men. She's just saying this so she can be part of a minority group so that she can victimize herself better. Because that's also kind of the vibe it gives me. So that she can now say, she's like, well, I'm part of the LGBTQIA plus community and what you're doing right now is homophobic. People at least then will stop saying that to her, that her comments, especially when it came to gay men before, was homophobic.
There was a little dingleberry at the bottom of the stairs and I stepped in it by accident. It was like dry because it must have been on one of the cat's hairy asses or something. So I'm going to pick it up after. I'll even show you. It happens. They get dingleberries.
Okay, here's the thing. She stepped in a hard ball of poop. God only knows how many more of there are in those poor animals' fur. I have friends who have very bushy, hairy cats, and I've never experienced that in their houses at all. Never seen it, never smelt it. Those cats are clean and beautiful. And the idea that you stepped in poop and then didn't wash your foot, and you also didn't clean it up, and you're like, oh, I'll deal with the poop on my floors later. It just skeeves me out. It makes me so uncomfortable. I don't even wear shoes in my house because the idea that I could be dragging any kind of stuff into my house like grosses me out so bad. Like there's a no shoe policy in my house. It's like the biggest problem when I ever have an issue, because having someone come in and like address something, like my landlords, for example, because they won't take their shoes off, it is a nightmare. I hate it so much. But like, gross. How gross and lazy are you? And it's not even like wet, where it would take a while and you have to like spray things down, you have to scrub. It's a little bit of cleaning. You could have just done the cleaning. Oh my God.
What do I do?
Okay, so this is her now driving. By the way, I didn't delineate where the videos ended and started because I'm not entirely sure. I'm pretty sure this is the second video, though. This is not the I'm back one, but the CPAP rescue one. She drives all the way to his house. She's apparently had a conversation with him saying that I want to come get all of my stuff. And she drives all the way to his house, and she gets there, and he is not there. So that's the context that you're missing. A lot of this video was just her being mad and upset and repeating the same points that she's had over and over again, so I just cut it out.
There's like a pile of my clothes on the porch, but they smell. It's like in a weird sheet. But my CPAP and my TV are not there, which is good. They're not. Should I try calling? Oh my God, I'm not gonna call. What is this shit? He's not home. I need my CPAP. I feel like he's playing games with me. Like, he knew I was coming.
Okay, and this is what I mean by Chantal is also toxic towards Nader. Have you considered that if you broke up with someone, they might not want to see your face? And you're saying, oh, you know, my clothes are there, but like my CPAP and my TV isn't. Why the fuck didn't you pick up your clothes? The reason is, I'll clue you in, is because she doesn't actually want the clothes. She wanted there to see him. She wanted him to beg her to stay. She wanted to have that reason to communicate with him and then like slide back into his life. She doesn't care about the clothes. She's not taking them now because it will be one less thing that she can take from him later on down the line if they are actually broken up for good. That's why she doesn't take them, which is absolutely ridiculous. And she's sitting there and she's like, oh, well, you know, why is he playing mind games with me? He's not there now. He doesn't have to give an accounting of his time to you. If you're broken up and you're not together, nobody owes you an accounting of their time. Hell, I don't even tell partner when I'm going, where I'm going, or why half the time I go out, right? Like, unless it's something important and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be back at this time, I don't have to give a minute-by-minute accounting of my life to anybody. That's the great thing about being an adult, is that I'm not really liable to report what I do and where I am. Why do you think you're owed that? From anyone, really, but why would you think you're owed that from someone you're broken up with? This is creepy stalker behavior.
Okay, so I call back, and now he's not at home. He's out. I didn't come in time when I said I was going to come, so he said he left my machine in a bag. I don't see anything.
If someone watched the original video, I want you to tell me how long she was gone for, because I'm assuming that she just saw the clothes on the thing and the fact that he wasn't there and she got back into her car. I'm pretty sure she didn't even check. So he could have actually put her CPAP machine out there, because unlike a TV, which has some value for him, I don't think a CPAP machine is something he would care for, really. And quite frankly, I wouldn't put it past him to not give a shit and just have thrown it into the sheets themselves. Just wrapped it up in her clothes and be like, whatever, when she takes her shit, they'll all be in there. Why didn't you take your stuff? You could have gone home and looked through all of that. And your TV isn't there, but I'm assuming it's probably a smart idea not to put a TV on the porch in a sketchy neighborhood where people could potentially take it.
He's not home. He's going to be home in the morning. Okay, so you're like... So I messed up on the fine. I'll get the cops to get my shit. I don't care. I'll take a pic. I'm not at home. So the cops will freaking go in your house. I don't care.
That's not what the cops will do. You took it there of your own free will, and you've literally given him exactly 45 seconds to do that. I don't want to be on Nader's side with this, but the cops aren't going to take your side in this. You're being literally crazy right now. And he's allowed to go wherever the hell he wants to go. He could be at some other girl's house, but equally as likely is that he just didn't want to see you when he was at a friend's house. Do you know how reasonable of an explanation that is? What cop is going to... Like, the cop's going to come to his house and be like, oh, yeah, sorry, she can be a little bit much, and I just didn't want to see her, so I told her to come in the morning when my roommate will be home, or when I'll have more friends, or when I'm less tired, and I figured that she would do that. I didn't realize she would go to the cops to get her stuff, because I put it all out here, and she has had time, and she didn't come. It's reason... Like, it is a reasonable explanation for why he wasn't there. And she's not mad. She doesn't want her stuff. She's just mad that he wasn't there, that she couldn't check in on him and to make sure that he isn't cheating on her. It's the same reason why she couldn't stay at home one night. is because that is how little faith she has in him. And maybe she's right. But if you're in a relationship and you have that little faith in someone, then don't be in that relationship.
Here, fucking asshole. Loser. I swear to God, I'm so fucking mad. Just fuck with me some more, Nutter. Do it. I dare you. Do it. Piss me off more. Real. This cannot be real. I can't believe he's like playing games like this. Sten says I play games. I play games? Oh yeah, sure, sorry. I guess I just come on in line and rant about you for no reason, right? So there's no reason at all for me to be pissed off at you on a regular basis. Be right back. I'm gonna go in the house.
Even if you are mad at him on a regular basis, maybe consider not being with someone who makes you this mad on a regular basis. And you do play games with him. You play games with him all the time. When you put up that a community post where you're like, oh yeah, and he's real, that wasn't playing a mind game with him, hoping to make him jealous. And him not being home is probably a power play on his part, but not necessarily. Nobody owes you their time, Chantel. You're not owed anything. You're not life's victim. Grow up.
My the internet stopped working, and so I ended the stream. Like it was like buffering when I was driving. So I ended the stream, and I'm back home now. And yes, I pulled over and thought I would try one more time. Yeah.
See, she says this. She said that she tried calling him one more time, you know. And I'll get to there in a second. And she said she claims that she ended the stream because it was buffering. I don't think so. I think she ended the stream so that she could call him without that call being on live, because then people would know what she said. And I feel like that message was a lot more beggy and I'm sorry and all of those fun things.
When I talked to him, I realized that was a really bad idea, and it was him calling me. And I'm not gonna get my shit back. I'm just gonna buy new shit because. Like, I feel like he wants us to, like, put a wedge between us or something. Like, he wants him out of the picture completely.
And this, by the way, is she's talking about her and Pete's. He doesn't need to drive a wedge between anything. You do a very effective job of that completely on your own.
What's the theory? Oh, the video. So there's the Mashi. I have a Sharmola one that I edited, and, oh, I can't think of the other one right now.
Well, there you have it. And now you know. Now you know which videos are going to be coming out. And now you know how many were recorded beforehand and how many she's going to go help him record. And that would have been really good information to have, which is why I left it. But then I woke up this morning and she's like, oh yeah, people are stalking me, blah, blah, blah. I'm back with Natter. And so it doesn't matter. And you can tell, even here, right? She called him. She hung up on her audience so that she could call him. And he is not happy with her, and he called her a bitch. So she came back on here to cry a little bit more. And this is her excuse. She's giving excuses for why, you know, she's like, oh, yeah, I don't want to go back to him. Let me see if I can tell them this, and then maybe he'll hold me accountable, without realizing that the only person you're really accountable to is yourself. And if you're not putting in that effort, then that's on you. It's on you. All of this is in your court. You can still walk away anytime. You're choosing not to. And that's not anybody's fault but your own. So I'm back now. And I don't know why I said I'm back. I mean, I never really left. So that was pretty much it for the video. Now, I did mention Darvo again a little bit in the beginning, and I talked about how I think it applies to Natter. But here, I'll tell you about how it applies to Chantel as well, right? So let's take the Pete situation, right? So the first is deny, right? She denies the fact that people are asking for a reasonable thing. She denies the fact that she can do anything to help Pete. She denies the fact that she has any culpability in his worsening mental health. Attack. She then goes on the attack for the people who are asking her to stay home. She blocks them. She belittles them. She, even with Pete, she's like, well, I'm really mentally ill myself, you know, so I'm not asking him to do a lot. You know, the cats, he just has to feed and clean them. It's not a lot of work that I've put on him. And then she reverses victim and offender, right? Pete is currently the one who needs the help. He's the one whose mental health we should be focusing on. But she changes that. She makes herself into the victim. You know, his mental health was so bad that I needed loving arms to go back to, that I was so upset by what was happening with him that I needed support. She makes herself into the victim, and she turns everyone who has been trying to bring attention to the fact that she is being a bad friend into the role of the offender. She makes everybody else like attacking her. She makes everybody else the attacker and therefore the violent, mean person, without realizing that you are the one who's actively degrading your friend's mental health right now. You are the one who's excuse seeking so that you don't have to engage with him. So anyway, that's just how I feel. If you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you hated this video, go ahead, give me a thumbs down. That's totally okay. I respect everybody's opinions here. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. Hit the notification bell down below and hit all if you want to know when I upload any videos right away. I've got all my social medias linked down below. Instagram, Twitter, Patreon. You guys know the drill. I want to say a special thank you to my $25 patrons, Oceana Songs and D. Higgins. And I want to say a thank you to everybody watching and a thank you to all of my other patrons as well. Thank you guys so much. You guys keep the world turning. And update on the camera situation. My phone is dying currently. I don't know if this is happening to you guys because I have a little bit of an older phone. It tends to do that really fun, interesting thing where if I try to switch between two apps, it completely seizes and then immediately dies. So if I have to return this, then I'm going to return my mic because that mic is not going to work as a camera for a new phone. And I don't really know what to do about that. If you guys know any mics that work with a iPhone, please let me know because I would really appreciate having a better mic. If you guys know how to hook up my mic to this phone, also let me know. Or if you guys know anywhere on YouTube where I can find that information, because I tried like YouTubing it, but I haven't come across a good source. Anyway, I'm rambling now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you, as always. Have a really great night. And I'm Jasmine, the sequel. And I am not relatable. Peace. Thank you to all my patrons, Acrophobe, Ariel M, Christina, Courtney EP, Darkness Dust, Dainty B, Sidra Z, Colleen L, Debbie E, Juju, Justa Jude, Kate O, Sonia P, D Higgins, and Oceana Songs. Thank you guys so much.